This video covers AOS Expression Controls, where all the power to calculate and answer questions resides. If anything in AOS is familiar to all of you, it has to be the simple functions we use all the time, whether in our heads or in the computer. You all know the basic 4 math functions unless you never went to school. We all had to take geometry, so are familiar with functions like sine and cosine. We may not have ever had to use these in real life, but we have been formally introduced. We all operate out of the common knowledge developed by mankind over centuries. Knowledge is really knowing all kinds of information and knowing what to do with it to obtain something that is useful in the moment. A doctor can look at a chart of information that has strange terms and units of measure to you, but completely familiar to him or her, information that drives the decisions that will be made for the patient. You could completely know the troop movements of an enemy approaching, but only one trained to interpret the information can make the most use of it. How many of you know the factorial function? How many of you know where it's useful? Some people know the answer to this question because they've needed it to compute something else they needed. So when it comes down to getting the answers you need to operate, you have a set of things you know how to do with information, and in that set of procedures, there are common functions you need to apply in a specific way. For example, the equation that computes the payment for your car loan is complex when you look at it, but is made of simple add, subtract, multiply, and divide operations in a specific order on specific data. You may not understand the equation or how it gets its answer, but you could look at the equation and implement it in a program because you know the simple functions it's made of. What you are missing is how to put data and function together in the AOS environment to give your program's expressions to evaluate in the moment when updated information is needed. So, the expression controls is a semi-fixed set of functions and data retrievers with conditional branches to change what we do based on conditions in the program. That's it. You will use functions you understand in a manner you understand to arrive at answers you understand. The assembly and expression assembly functions are needed in AOS to do some needed things informationally, and the task function is required to jump out of an expression to do something that has access to all the interface controls and return to the expression like checking a value on a website. All the decisions we make are logically based and use some form of conditional branch operation. We test information and decide what to do in our minds all the time. The place where all the power of the computer resides, which is expressions, is so simple in construction and use that there really isn't a whole lot you can say new about applying functions to data. We know how from school, but you need to know how in AOS to make expressions that will be evaluated by the computer in the moment, and then how to combine multiple expressions into the answers you need in your application. The prompter is a good example of a tiny but useful application. It uses 13 controls and took 15 minutes to create. It reads a line and calculates how long it will take for the reader to finish the line based on a number I entered and adjusted for my reading speed. It then waits for how long it calculated and then reads the next line. Simple, fast, and very useful to me personally because I just don't want to click a button after every line. To drive this point home, I'm going to create a circle analyzer program. I know the equations for area and circumference and know how to multiply, and I know pi to 5 digits. Once I have the program, all I need is a radius to know everything about the circle it belongs to, and I'll never have to calculate those by hand again. Get it? Programming is cool and makes useful tools, and though this example is simple, the same procedures and thinking would go into an expression that computes the effectiveness of your sales force throughout the day. Not so simple.